The Miami Dolphins added Tyreek Hill, and that could potentially be the thing that unlocks Tua Tagovailoa's career and his potential that many saw from him during the hashtag tank for Tua college football season. But there's still a lot of question marks around his career with a new head coach, with a new offensive line. There's no more excuses for Tua. It is a make or break year for him. If he doesn't perform well and if this team misses out on the playoffs, we could see some major shifts in Miami.
Before we talk about how crucial of a season this is for Tua and the Miami Dolphins, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So if you enjoy NFL content, want to see it every single week, click the subscribe button and don't forget to like the video.
But now we go to a team that has been trying to get into the playoffs. They've been knocking on the door. Have had a lot of things going on in regards to their head coaching searches. But nonetheless, here's the Miami Dolphins. Obviously lost, or they fired Brian Flores, which was one of the things I was mentioning. Also lost wide receivers Will Fuller and Devontae Parker, and then cornerbacks Justin Coleman and Jason McCourty. But they did bring in head coach Mike McDaniels, which to some who know out there probably may have been their second choice of Sean Payton. But anyways, also obviously wide receiver Tyreek Hill. That was their big blockbuster trade. And then just trade draft picks for that mainly. And then wide receiver Cedric Wilson from John's Cowboys. And then brought in some running backs because this is the Kyle Shanahan scheme. So you're going to have multiple backs. Raheem Mostert, obviously from San Francisco. Running back Chase Edmonds. Brought in Teddy Bridgewater, which is interesting. Very good backup. And then obviously address that O-line that Tuanon has been in our ear all about, which, yes, we know the O-line was bad. Guard Connor Williams, once again from John's Cowboys. And tackle Taron Armstead as well. And then recently brought in edge rushers Melvin Ingram and Trey Flowers. Didn't really do much in the draft since obviously they used those picks to grab Tyreek Hill. But anyways, John, what were your thoughts on the Dolphins and what are your expectations?
I think the Dolphins could be good, but I'm also, I don't know, I've seen a lot of hype behind the Dolphins, and I'm not quite ready to put them as like one of the top teams in the AFC. Obviously, they add Tyreek Hill, they get Teron Armstead, they make some big offseason additions, and everybody instantly wants to jump and start vaulting them into the likes of Buffalo and Kansas City and, you know, all those kind of teams. And I'm just not quite ready to put them there, but I do think they could be vying for a playoff spot. They're not going to win this division. It's still going to be Buffalo. The only thing that I think would change that is if Josh Allen were to get hurt, knock on wood. But otherwise, I think that they can be the second place team in this division, but you're still going to be battling with the Patriots and Jets there because I wouldn't rule either of them quite out yet. I think they're more talented than both teams by far, but you know, with Mike McDaniels, a rookie head coach, you just got to see what happens. There could be a jump from the Jets if, you know, some of their young guys, because they're a very young team, develop. And then with the Patriots, it's still Bill Belichick, so they're always going to be a pain, like you said. But overall, I think they're a very talented team, and so I could easily see them being the 5th seed, the 6th seed, one of the top wild card spots, especially since in the rest of the conference, you're going to have the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders all beating on each other up, you know, in their divisional games. And so that could lower them in terms of wild card standings if multiple of those teams are going to make it. You got the Colts and the Titans who are going to be vying for playoff spot, and they got to go against each other. But you can't really count out the Jags because we saw they could beat the Colts last year. Same for the Texans. They're a bad team, but like with that division, it seems like anybody can beat anybody. And so I wouldn't be shocked if they're able to secure like the 5th seed, for example. But overall, I think that they're a solid team, but it feels sort of like the Eagles. I would say it just comes down to Tua. Really. I mean, for the Eagles, I feel a little more confident in the rest of their roster because last year they didn't have near as many holes, right? And I think the Dolphins' holes last year were in more key spots. The offensive line. You can't have a hole at offensive line. If you do, it can ruin the entire flow of your whole offense. And so the fact that they addressed that is big, but we still got to see because they got Teron Armstead. He's great, but health has been an issue. They got Connor Williams. He's solid, but penalties have been an issue. And so we just got to see it all work together and see what that offensive line looks like. If they can give Tua time, I think Tua can have a better year because so far throughout his career, he's had trash offensive lines, and I don't think that he's the type of quarterback that's going to elevate himself above that like we've seen Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert do. But I do think he can be a really solid quarterback if you give him the time to make decisions, make the right reads, because he is an intelligent player. He is an accurate thrower for the most part. He does tend to make the right decisions when it comes to just not putting the ball in harm's way. And so I think that if they can give him time, now you have speedy weapons like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You still got Gesicki. You add a really good stable of running backs in Mike McDaniel's system, which if it's anything like the offensive system he's coming from with Kyle Shanahan, they're going to run the ball a lot. I think that's just going to give Tua potential, more options for success, because he's not being relied on to just make something out of nothing like I feel like he was at times previously last year. So I like what they did offensively, because I think all it does is strengthen Tua. And I was going to say that they had multiple draft picks next year to potentially go out and get another quarterback if Tua doesn't pan out, but they don't, because obviously, they were tampering and, dabbling with Sean Payton and Tom Brady. That didn't end up happening. So maybe this is plan B, but sucks they lost the pick. Anyway, they still have, a first round pick for next year, and they do have other, draft picks accumulated throughout the other rounds, and, they got some good players. So maybe if Tua doesn't work out, they can find some deal. And the only reason I'm saying that is because over the offseason, there was just a lot of rumors of other quarterbacks being put in. So I know some Dolphins fans could get mad at the talk of us still mentioning Tua not being their quarterback, but I mean, they were looking at Tom Brady. They were potentially going to trade for Deshaun Watson. Like there's just a lot of rumors about other quarterbacks. So I'm not going to say that Tua has saved his spot by any means, but if he has a good year, we'll see what happens in the future. Overall, I like the Dolphins. I'd be interested to see what the defense does this year. You lose Brian Flores. I think that he was a really stabilizing force for that defense. And Mike McDaniel is going to be a great coach, but he's very young. And so I don't know how much influence he's going to have over the defensive side of the ball. So it's just going to be interesting to see what their defense does. Byron Jones is already on the PUP list, so he's going to miss at least the first 4 games. And so Xavier Howard, great corner, but I think that could mean the first quarter of the season, he can't be as aggressive as he normally would, because he doesn't have Byron Jones on the other side locking things up. That's been one of the great things about that partnership, is obviously Xavier Howard. He's not Trayvon Diggs, so he's not getting burnt all the time. He's a great cover corner, but one of the beauties of that combo is Byron Jones is so good at just covering and not playing aggressive and ensuring that catches don't happen, that Xavier Howard on the opposite side can be ultra aggressive and use his ball skills to force turnovers. Without Byron Jones' first couple weeks, it'll just be interesting to see what that defense does. I like the roster the Dolphins have. I think they're a very talented roster. I'm excited for a lot of the young guys they have, like Jalen Waddle, Javon Holland. He had a really, really good season last year, and so I'm excited to see what they can do in year 2. But ultimately, I think at best they're a wild card team. If they miss the playoffs, it's going to be because the AFC is competitive. And simply put, I just don't think that 10 wins will be enough for them to make it in the AFC. So if this is, I think if Tua is going to have a good year, he needs to do it in the record books mainly. And that means you got to win 11 games. That's really what I think for the Dolphins if they want to make the playoffs. If they don't win 11 games, I think anything could happen in terms of Tua and his future with the organization.
So yeah, I'll start there with Tua. Kind of like what I said for Jalen Hurts. Like at this point, even if he doesn't take a step forward, if he just stays healthy, I think they could be a playoff team. I mean, with Tyreek Hill, even with the year that Mahomes and Chiefs won the Super Bowl, Mahomes is out for a couple of games, but they made it work, and Tyreek Hill is still effective because he's Tyreek Hill. He can take a screen he can outrun anybody basically in the league. So yeah, I'm interested though to see if he does. Obviously, is a little more aggressive and can push the ball downfield. But even if not, like you mentioned, I mean, this is a really, really good. I'm hoping it works out, but a really good idea to bring in a guy who's more run centric. Obviously, run the ball more, and then use him on play action, and it kind of simplifies the offense because then he only has 1-2 read, or maybe a third read, and then he can either run or throw it away, or just a lot. It kind of simplifies things. And to be fair, we've been heavy. We've been heavy Tua criticizers per se, according to some people. I will say has had two different offensive coordinators in his first 2 years, so you do have to credit that. So maybe this McDaniels, and Mike McDaniels has already kind of meant, like, right from the get go, he called Tua, and so it seems like Mike McDaniels is really trying to make this work. I'm guessing that's probably why they brought him in, was because he probably emphasized, like, hey, I want to make Tua work. I want to build on his strengths. So yeah, like I think in reality, I think Tua can do basically all the things that Jimmy Garoppolo could do in the San Francisco offense. in terms of his throwing ability and such. And I think he's a little bit more mobile than Jimmy and maybe has a little more potential. So we'll see if he does take that next step forward because once again, I will say it though. We were right. Probably should have taken Herbert. Didn't take Herbert. That's okay. Tua still got time. He's only in his third year. He could be as good as Herbert, but I think we can all say fairly outside of Tua and on that those other two guys taken before him were better. But nonetheless, I think he can have success because, like you said, this is a very talented team outside. Hopefully, outside of the O-line. So hopefully they can address that and fix that with being a more run-centric team. But yeah, the defense, like you mentioned, I mean, I really like it, and I think it's going to be one of the better defenses in the league. I mean, two great defensive linemen and Christian Wilkins and Raekwon Davis. I almost blanked on his name. Obviously, it sucks that they're going to be missing Byron Jones for a bit, but still have, like you mentioned, Xavier Howard, Javon Holland, like we just mentioned, very good safety. And then Jalen Phillips, one of the guys that we were both high on last year. He started to come along as the year went on, started producing not only just sacks, but being disruptive in the run game. Emmanuel Ogbah's been very good as well. So, yeah, they're definitely kind of like you mentioned, very funny how like they're mirror image, almost like a mirror image of the Eagles, but not. They don't have a good O-line like the Eagles, but they have, better pieces elsewhere. And I think regardless, this team, I would definitely put them in that playoff picture, probably more wild card. For now is where I would probably put them, / maybe missing out if they just get unlucky or, Tua gets hurt. But once again, they have Teddy Bridgewater to do like. So if Tua does get hurt, which he has gotten hurt for 2 years, I think we all know that Teddy can step in and he won't lose you games. He might not win you as many games, but he won't lose you games, Teddy Bridgewater. So, we'll see what happens with Miami if they can finally, turn it around and get in the playoffs because they've been very close with Brian Flores. Obviously, that whole situation is a whole different thing. But, hey, maybe Mike McDaniels will push them over the edge.